Welcome back to the Cozy Cottage Homestead.
Did you just cut the cheese?
No, honey, I just sliced the cheese to make crackers and cheese. Alright. Welcome back to the Cozy Cottage Homestead. Who wants to learn how to make some cheese that you will not believe that it's not Velveeta? It's homemade Velveeta cheese. I've tried several recipes over the years, and I finally have one that I really like. And I have a few frugal tips to throw in there along the way. This is what you're going to need. 2 gallons of whole milk. Ours is goat milk. 4 tablespoons of citric acid. 1½ teaspoons of baking soda. 1/2 cup of butter, or 1 stick of butter. And then towards the end, you're going to need another 2/3 cup of whole milk. And you don't have to put cheese powder in it, but I find if you put a little bit of cheese powder in it, it makes it taste a lot better, and it gives it just a little bit of color. And I'll tell you more about that here in a minute. So let's get right to it. I'm going to put the 2 gallons of milk in my big pot and show you what that looks like. And we have to bring it up to 140 degrees. So you will need a thermometer of some type, or a cheese thermometer, so that you can know that your milk is getting up to the right temperature. Alright, we got our 4 gallons of fresh goat milk. It's completely whole milk. It has not been separated. Of course, you can use whole milk from the store if you wanted to. It's going to change the flavor up just a little bit. Make sure if you have fresh milk that you scrape all that good cream off the sides. It's a little messy getting it all in there. And some of the milk has ice in it because I keep my refrigerator so cold to keep the milk from spoiling. Helps it to last longer. I think this one's got a little bit of ice in it. I may have to just wait a few seconds for it to finish defrosting so I can get it out. Alright, we got all of our milk in the big pot. It's 2 gallons. You can use the recipe and split it in half if you only have 1 gallon. We have a lot of milk coming in, so this is a good way to enjoy it. So we're going to put it over a medium heat. You don't have to stir it continuously, but don't leave it. Stir it every once in a while, and you want to bring it up to 140 degrees. And I'll show you that whenever we get to that point. Alright, our milk is up to the 140 degrees. Go ahead and cut the fire off. Remove your thermometer so you don't drop it and break it. You get your pot holders because it's going to be hot. Slide it over. And I want y'all to watch very carefully whenever I add the citric acid. It's going to separate the whey from the curds. You're not going to see it right at first, but as soon as I get to stirring it just a little bit, you're going to see it change. You want to go ahead and stir it just a little bit to make sure the citric acid is incorporated into the milk. And as you can tell, look at that. It's starting to do its thing already. Just a light little stir. Alright, now you want to set your timer for 30 minutes and let it rest. And I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, the next step is to drain the whey and the curds in a strainer. If if you want to keep the whey to make other cheeses, you can do that also. Some people also use it in soups and stuff like that. But it's very frugal. You save the whey for this recipe, and then you can make ricotta cheese from the whey. So we just have a cheesecloth lined inside of a pot that has a strainer in the middle of it. Then we will pull the cheesecloth up and the whey will drop in the pot, and then the curds will be in the cheesecloth. And my husband's going to help me with this part because it's a little hard to do with my arms and hands giving me fits. So he usually gets to do that part. Just grab the four corners and hold on to it really tight. By having a pot with a strainer in it, should you drop it, it would keep you from wasting all of your hard work. And then you want to just gently rock it back and forth, and your cheese will start, well actually your curds will make a little ball. This will get all of the whey out of the curds. And then after you do that for a little while, you can gently squeeze the outside of it to get the last little bit of whey out, or you also could hang it on your faucet and let it drip for about 15 to 20 minutes. Some other cheeses do take longer to let them drip. Alright, so I just melted the half a cup of butter, and then I added the 2/3 cup of the whole milk, and then I added some cheese powder. I do not go out and purchase cheese powder. I normally don't even use cheese powder in my Velveeta cheese, but I felt like it was missing a little something. And I didn't want to use food coloring and put dye and stuff in it to give it just a little bit of a different yellowish color. So I robbed a macaroni and cheese pack. I put a few teaspoons of that cheese in my milk and my butter, and I stir it until it gets dissolved really good. You could go out and purchase some cheese powder, but we're trying to be frugal, using what we have. Then we have those noodles now with no cheese pack. Absolutely not a problem. We're making homemade cheese. This cheese is delicious in macaroni and cheese. It can be sliced. It can be used in Alfredo sauces, casseroles, any way you would use your cheese normally, whatever kind you like, you can use this cheese for all of that. It's not a hard cheese. It is a soft cheese. It is the texture of Velveeta cheese. But it also can be sliced and used on sandwiches or grilled cheeses or hamburgers or however you want to use it if you want sliced cheese. And it's excellent, as you've seen, on crackers. So I'm just going to mix this all up. I try to get all the little cheese powder, which isn't very much, just a very little bitty bit. And this is optional. You do not have to add the cheese powder if you don't want to. This is getting nice and bubbly. It's I turned it up just a little bit. It's close to a medium heat now. I don't know if y'all can see, but it's getting nice and bubbly. Now we have our 1.5 teaspoons of the baking soda. Go ahead and put that in. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but it starts reacting immediately. Starts bubbling up. It gets kind of foamy. Go ahead and turn your heat back down just a little bit. Now we have our curd from our cheese, from the milk. This is what it looks like. If you keep rolling it gently back and forth, it'll make a good ball, so then you can pick it up and it will not stick to your cheesecloth. Just break it up just a little bit, just to set it in there without splashing it, so don't make a mess. And a piece of the string from the cheesecloth occasionally will get on there. If you notice it, just go ahead and pull it out. Now, turn it back up to close to medium and start mixing up all of the curds into your cheese sauce and your milk and butter. Or I should say cheese powder. We're making cheese. That's just to add a little flavor and a little color. But it takes a little doing because you want to break up all of those curds and mix it in. If it gets too foamy on you, go ahead and turn your heat down. But if you go ahead and keep stirring it, it's going to get really rich and silky and creamy, which is what you want. And eventually it will settle back down after you get all the curds mixed into it really good. And then that's how you'll know your cheese is ready to be dumped in your loaf pan or cheese mold, whatever you want to put it in. This cheese also freezes really well. The cheese in the beginning of the video had been frozen. I took it out about an hour before to show y'all how well it sliced and how well it did after it was frozen. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat back down a little bit because I got it mixed pretty good. Just make sure there's no big lumps or anything in there. It kind of swells up, and then as it cooks right back down. And after it cooks back down, you want to pour it immediately in your loaf pan. I was using a loaf pan lined with plastic. I really didn't want to use the plastic. So I have a glass loaf pan. I spray it with a little pan spray or line it with oil on a paper towel so it doesn't stick. But it really isn't necessary. If you use the glass, the Velveeta cheese will just kind of suck away from the glass. Then you just flip it upside down and it's all one block. It works great. So if you want to be frugal and not use the plastic, or if you're just afraid of the plastic chemicals and stuff, which we're trying to get away from all that, that works good too. So I'm just going to keep stirring it. And it's going to start sinking back down. I'm going to try to leave it on the side of the pot where it was at so you can already see that it's starting to drop back down. But you'll feel the change in it. It'll get very thick and it'll be smooth. Just take your time with it. It's a very easy cheese to make. I would definitely recommend it for beginners. As y'all can tell, it's going further and further and down. And whenever I get it on my spoon, you can see how it just comes off of there really slow. And it starts looking like what it is. Kind of like a cheese sauce. So I know it's getting really close. Yes, I was just checking to see if y'all could see how high the cheese got. It's almost reduced by half. So it's really close. I don't really know how long it takes. I'm not good at writing down the times and all that kind of stuff. I just figured I'd go ahead and make a video for y'all and show y'all how to make some. I cannot believe it's not really Velveeta cheese because it's really good. It was a very good one to share with y'all. It can be used in lots of different ways. So for me, that's just wonderful that I can use it for a sandwich, or I can use it for Alfredo sauce. I can use it in casseroles. It's just a wonderful cheese, and it's very easy to make. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and I'm going to dump it into my container and chat just a little bit more. Alright, so I have a loaf pan. You can line it with plastic. You might could oil it, I'm not sure. I would hate for it to stick. So I always line it with plastic. And then I tried it in the glass without the plastic. So that's the method that I've been using. And when it gets done, I just flip it upside down and I cut me like 3 bars out of it. You might even get 4. And I leave one in the refrigerator and then have leftovers for later in the freezer. Wrap it in plastic wrap, put it in a baggie, and then put it in another freezer bag is one way of doing it. Or you can wrap it in plastic, each bar, wrap that in foil, and then slide it into a freezer bag. And it'll last up to a year. I would say use it within 8 months, but that's up to you. It's perfectly fine after that. In the refrigerator, it lasts up to 2 weeks. Usually it doesn't last that long because we just eat on it and cook with it, and it's just really good. Alright. This cheese is extremely hot. I'm probably going to have fun pouring it in here. And in a way where y'all can see it. So, here it goes. And if your container does not hold all of your cheese, have another little bowl handy right there. Now when this cheese cools off, it's going to drop down just a little bit. So this container is not going to hold all the cheese that I have. So I'm going to wait and do that after the video. Dump it in something else. So you want to leave this sitting out on your counter and let it cool off to room temperature. And then put the lid on it or cover it with plastic and put it in the refrigerator and leave it overnight. The next morning you can flip it out and wrap it up and you'll have some good Velveeta cheese. And if you want to use it for slicing for say hamburgers or grilled cheese, just slice it like I showed you in the beginning of the video. Put some wax paper between if you have a bunch of burgers to make or sandwiches so don't stick together. And it won't stick on you, and you can do it the night before to save you some time the next day, but it's good for all kinds of recipes. So farewell homestead family, friends and neighbors, and thanks for joining me today at the Cozy Cottage Homestead.